KTN News. Get the whole story.
Join other...
Good morning, good to see you. Thank you for joining us here on the News Diary. In the next 30 minutes, we take a look at what stories we are chasing for you. We are following up for you here in the newsroom. What is developing? What are we trying to put together for you, just to give you an understanding or a picture of what the News Diary looks like this morning. I am Akisa Wandera. I'll be taking you through this as well as later on News Center. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you're having a lovely morning. Our reporters are stationed across the country just to bring us up to date with some of the stories they're working on. We have Chebet Birir, who's with me here in studio. She'll be talking about the WHO raising a red alarm over drug resistance, especially on antibiotics. She'll be telling us more on that. Of course, the launch on vaccine campaigns, COVID-19 vaccine campaigns, where the Inter-Religious Council in Kenya is set to launch that a bit later on in the day. Beldin Waliaula will be talking to us about that, and especially why this is very important at this point. Emmanuel Toh will also be speaking to us on what the political diary looks like. Top on that list, of course, is that Azimio la Umoja meeting by ODM leader Raila Odinga, and later on we'll also be speaking to Kevin Ogutu with the latest update on the gold mine, or the miners in Bondo, and the rescue operations that are still also currently ongoing, and of course that bore quite considerable fruit last night. Brenda Keruba will also be joining us shortly on what the diary looks like on the business desk, on the law surrounding digital lending. This and more lined up for you this morning. Thank you for joining us. I want us to begin with what is happening at the Ufungamano House, where the Inter-Religious Council of Kenya is set to commit to allow the Ministry of Health to use the places of worship as venues of COVID-19 vaccination countrywide. That event will be graced by Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe, and Beldin Waliaula is joining us now with that update. Beldin, why is this particular campaign important at this point?
Good morning, Akisa. Happy to see you. This campaign is very important because remember at the beginning of the year, the Ministry of Health had a target to reach at least 10 million people, vaccinating them with the first dose or also the second dose of COVID-19 vaccine. So the year is almost lapsing. The 25th is almost here, and we are still lagging behind. So far, 8 million people have received their first dose, with at least 3 million people receiving their second dose. So this campaign is very important because it will help the Ministry of Health to reach the target of the number of people to be vaccinated. It will also be important because now we have a new variant. So we need more people vaccinated and being prevented from this COVID-19 virus, and also just making sure that everyone has something that they can use to fight this virus when it attacks.
This, considering that they're now using the places of worship, how effective will this be at the end of the day?
This seems to be an effective way of bringing the vaccines to people, because one of the strategies of the campaigns is bringing these vaccines closer to people, because Kenyans have been maybe lagging behind going where vaccines are to hospitals. So now the Ministry of Health has this new strategy of bringing the vaccines closer to people. And churches is one of the way of bringing these vaccines closer to people. So on Sundays, we know most Kenyans love going to church. On Fridays, they go to mosques. So when we have these vaccines in a church or a mosque, more people will be receptive to have them, because there's been a hesitancy of also religion playing in when it comes to taking the vaccines. So if the vaccines are available at the church, and the ministers of the church, the pastors are telling people, encouraging people to take it, right, then you'll have a different view of people accepting these vaccines more.
Right, Beldin, and of course we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Beldin Waliaula following that update for us, as the Inter-Religious Council is set to commit to offering places of worship for vaccination, and Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe is expected at that event. Beldin Waliaula will be talking to us about that, and later on Chebet Birir also has a health story on the diary that she'll be talking to us about shortly. But let's take a look at what's happening in the political diary. There's a lot of political activity happening in the country, and of course the big one is ODM leader Raila Odinga's big day on Friday, with at least 2,000 elected leaders from across the political divide confirming attendance 2 days to the event. On Tuesday, a joint team of both Jubilee and ODM parliamentary group toured the 60,000-seat Moi International Stadium, Kasarani, where the fit will be held. The opposition chief is expected to declare his candidature in the race to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta, who's retiring in August next year. Emmanuel Toh is here with the political diary. Emmanuel, good morning. I imagine a lot of preps, or perhaps all systems go for the Kasarani function on Friday. What else do we have on that diary?
Well, Akisa, it is going to be a beehive of activity from now to that main day, which is only about 36 hours away, where ODM leader Raila Odinga is poised to make that major announcement as to whether he's going to vie for president or not. But all signs point to a situation where he's going to vie for presidency next year. And we have a lot of activities lined up in the political desk in terms of the Azimio la Umoja preparations. Today, this morning, the ODM leader is supposed to hold a meeting at the Chungwa headquarters here in Nairobi, as well as receive some defectors to the Jubilee, to the ODM side, rather from at the KICC. And we expect that that one is going to form a very big chunk of the activities in the political bit today. We also expect that the same preparation that happened yesterday at the Kasarani International Sports Center are going to continue today, because we toured that place yesterday. There were some members of parliament from Jubilee as well as ODM who went there to confirm whether the preparations are top-notch, and of course a lot has been going on there, and we expect that that will be continuing today. We also expect that the Mount Kenya Foundation, which is a group of which consists of some tycoons from the Mount Kenya region, are expected to officially announce that they are going to back Raila Odinga's presidency next year, and that will be happening at Safari Park Hotel right here in Nairobi. And we expect that any minute from now that activity will be going on today. And we also expect that the Deputy President William Ruto will be going back to Kisii County, or the Kisii region, where he has been getting some support of some sort since he went there 3 months ago. And the DP is supposed to tour some parts of that region just to make sure that he solidifies his support ahead of the next year's general election. Remember, yesterday he had some rough time in Laikipia, where the former Mungiki leader organized and wanted to address the youth, or the members of the public who had gathered for the rally, and Ruto was not very pleased with that, and he said that those who are planning to disrupt his meeting should organize their own meetings so that they can flow well with their activities. And we expect that this is going to be part of the activities that are going to continue today. So Akisa, that is the match we have here, and we also have a lot of activities lined up for you, and we'll be getting that update later in our subsequent bulletins. Akisa.
Emmanuel Toh for us at our City Center studios on what that political diary looks like today. So of course, be on the lookout as we continue to give you all the updates on this developing stories. Now, the Nyeri Town Member of Parliament Ngunjiri Wambugu has said that President Uhuru Kenyatta will not retire from politics even after his term as a president ends. Ngunjiri, who was speaking in Nyeri Town during the issuance of bursary reforms, said the president will continue serving as a Jubilee Party leader after expiry of his term in office, and that their focus now is on delivering their promises to Kenyans. The legislator added the party has plans to hold its NDC before the end of the year to re-strategize on how to walk towards next year's general election.
As a party, our primary focus is to ensure that as we get into the next government, whoever takes over the next government must be somebody who is committed, first, to continuing the legacy that exists. Two, somebody who has actually worked with this president and worked with this president well, who has finished with this president well. Our party leader is not going to retire from politics. Our party leader is going to continue being the party leader of the Jubilee Party, even after he retires from being the president, for a couple of years. And so the person we are going to get into partnership with, or into a coalition with as Jubilee Party, is going to be somebody who has actually respect and the capacity to work with the structures that exist of our party. We have seen some parties who, the primary thing they're doing right now is to raid our strongholds, to try and sabotage our party, to try and undermine our party, to try and kill our party. I mean, it's very difficult for us to work with people like those as a party. We can't work with somebody who the only thing he wishes you to do is to die. every time he wakes up, he's talking about how you're finished. We really cannot be able to work with a party like that. But for parties who respect us, for parties who associate themselves with our legacy, who want to work with us, we are happy to work with them in an open hand.
Right, and let's get back to matters health, where Uganda announced yesterday that it had detected cases of the Omicron COVID-19 variant and travelers coming into the country, the first infections to be reported in East Africa. The cases were detected in people screened at the Entebbe International Airport who flew in from 5 different countries. 5 had come from Nigeria, 2 from South Africa, where the variant was first reported, and 2 from the United Arab Emirates. The others had traveled from the Netherlands and the neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo. 2 weeks after the first case being identified in South Africa, Omicron has now been found in about 40 countries across the globe. The heavily mutated variant has deepened fears of yet another deadly wave of infections and signaled that the nearly 2-year battle against the pandemic is clearly not over. And that is a conversation that I want us now to have with Chebet Birir from our Health and Science Desk. Chebet, good morning. That the first cases have been reported in East Africa. What does it mean for the region?
Good morning, Akisa. Indeed, the Omicron variant is near us, that is in Uganda, and confirmed it is 7 cases of the variant, even though the Ministry of Health in Uganda is saying that the cases are not, the people who are ill are not severely ill. They've just been diagnosed, but they're not severely ill. They're in isolation, but it is not as serious as expected. That does not mean that we lower our guard and throw caution to the wind. Of course, we should be cautious so that we don't enhance the transmission of this variant. And as Beldin has told us earlier, the government is ramping up vaccinations, and they are going into community leaders so that they can sensitize the public so that as many people can get vaccinated, Kisa.
Right, and perhaps even as we talk about that, there's concern from the WHO over resistance to drugs and especially antibiotics. How does that weave into this conversation?
Yeah, the World Health Organization, together with other partners, Akisa, held the World Antimicrobial Resistance Week about 2-3 weeks ago, and they were raising awareness about this antimicrobial resistance, which, according to experts, is when you get infected with a virus or a fungi or a parasite and you don't respond to treatment. It means you have become resistant to the drugs, and it is a very risky affair because when you can't respond to drugs, it means you can never get better. And the World Health Organization has said that about 700,000 people, Akisa, are dying every year because of this issue. And so we are speaking to experts to try and find why and what can be done to end this. And yesterday I spoke to a vet, and you can't believe that it begins with our food chains. It could be from the chicken or the water that you eat. And it happens when farmers give antibiotics to animals, and then they don't give them the time to heal, and then they release it to the market. So when you eat that food, you're eating antibiotics and you're developing resistance. So when you get ill, you will not respond to treatment.
Right, very interesting, and it will be very interesting to see the report that will come out from the Health and Science Desk on this and that chain, and really what does it mean for us. Chebet Birir there for us from the Health and Science Desk, and I want us to switch gears now. The government will spend $500 million to construct the River Nzi bridge that claimed the lives of 32 people. According to Transport Principal Secretary Paul Maringa, the project will kick off immediately to avoid further loss of lives. Hamza Yusuf reports.
It is 4 days since the fateful bus plug into River Nzau that claimed lives of 32 people. Residents of Bigi, especially motorists using this road, have lamented over the state of the killer bridge. They blame the national government of failing to complete the project, thus exposing the lives of the people using the road. And today, Transport Principal Secretary Paul Maringa, as well as Energy CS Dr. Monica Juma, visited the killer bridge. They had good news for the residents about construction of the steel bridge.
So in our estimations of a period of 1 month and 1 week, somewhere around mid-January, construction work will start, and it will work in earnest. Now, Normally, a bridge of this nature, because it's a serious engineering, you can see the flood waters rise quite high. They come with logs and all manner of material. So if you do something fragile, it can be knocked down very easily. So normally the process is done slowly. You may find a bridge like this can be built for even 2 years. But we're in agreement, we don't have 2 years to wait. We're not going to lose any more lives in here. So the DG for Kera will be driving a team that intends to deliver this bridge in 10 months or less.
So I think we really need to make sure that these commitments we are making here are fulfilled in time.
Lakini kuanzia sasa kwenda mbele, lazima tusaidie wale wanaoishi na wenye watakuja. Usiingie tena kwa shida kama hii.
CS Monica Juma has often used this route while going to her home. And as the family continues to mourn their loved ones, they have now an opportunity to view their bodies starting Wednesday. Authorities now say the DNA test results will be out in the next 7 days.
So a number of teams from Nairobi, from Kenyatta University Hospital, was sending from DCIO, was sending from the Registration Bureau, so that we can have the fingerprints and for purposes of positive identification. And so the government will be taking charge of those costs, the entire cost, but we will also be supporting the families so that we can rest their loved ones in dignity.
Kitui County Health CC Dr. Winnie Kitetu is urging all family members who lost their loved ones to present themselves tomorrow at Mwingi Level 4 Hospital. Hamza Yusuf, KTN News, Mwingi.
Now, the Central Bank of Kenya has been handed powers to license and supervise digital lenders. This is after President Uhuru Kenyatta passed into law the Central Bank Bill 2021 that would also give CBK powers to suspend or revoke license of digital credit providers. The law now removes the regulation lacuna that had attracted public outcry about the pricing of digital loans and the extent that lenders could go in recovering their money from defaulters without breaching privacy. Let's now talk to Brenda Kerubo, who's our business reporter, joining us now for that update. Brenda, big news, and of course it has been received quite well by Kenyans, but really, what does that mean, both for the lenders and those digital lenders, service providers, perhaps?
Akisa, good morning. I'll just walk you through some of the data. Remember, back in 2012, we had about 200,000 people who depended on loans from these specific platforms. These are the digital loans. But the figure has grown to about 2 million in the last 2 years. It just goes to show you how significant this is in terms of the platform. Now, the bad side about this is not the fact that you can easily access the money in such a short period of time. It's the fact that your data can be used by a third party without your consent. Now, this specific law tends to focus on this specific area, and it will streamline it. Remember, it has been quite a battle between the central bank and these digital players, who are so many, and they are charging annualized interest rates anywhere between 82% all the way to 520%. We do have the Central Bank of Kenya on record, Patrick Njoroge, indicating that these are modern-day Shylocks. And of course, this law just goes to show you that they are most likely going to be tamed. Now, of course, you raised a very specific question, and an important one for that matter, in relation to how will these players receive this specific news. Remember earlier on, when it was still in the National Assembly, there were discussions around having it regulated under the Microfinance Act. But the Central Bank of Kenya was, these are financial institutions. As much as they are arguing that they are providing financial inclusion, they should be able to operate within the commercial bank framework. And this specific one, for that matter, will focus on that. So the big win is the fact that your data will not go into the third parties without the consent of the central bank. And at the same time, of course, being regulated, they can as well issue the licenses, so they will be able to see which players are not playing by the law and which ones are not. So definitely this is a very good track record, especially for the governor in terms of taming these rogue digital lenders.
All right, and of course, interesting to see how that plays out. But of course, a big win when it comes to, data protection and privacy. Thank you very much, Brenda. Of course, we'll be seeing how that report will come out from the business desk or the economy desk from all our platforms. Brenda Karibo, thank you for that. Let's now take a look at what you're talking about on our social media platforms, what is trending. Whitney Speak is now joining us with that update on what's big on the social media platforms. Whitney, good morning.
Good morning, Akisa. How are you?
I'm great. Good to see you. From my runnings around, I can see the killer cop is still making big news on our social media platforms.
Yes, and it is quite sad to see that 5 people had to lose their lives because of, another case of a love situation turning sour. It's really sad that he even took his own life and also killed 5 other people.
What are guys saying online about it?
Well, guys are really shocked to see that there's another case of police, using their guns to kill innocent citizens. They're even asking, like, how is it they're allowed to go home with the guns? What is it? Are they dealing with mental issues so that they end up taking it out on other people? There's a big debate based around that area. Like, what are the cops really dealing with? Are they okay mentally? Because this seems to be like a case where they're just lashing out.
And speaking of that, and just looking at how that is panning out, there's been a lot of death this week. We noticed that there's still a lot of conversation on the River Nziu tragedy. We've just seen a report that a bridge is going to be constructed. What are people saying about it online?
Well, surprisingly, even after the death of the 33 people, there's still videos coming up online showing how people are still endangering their lives as they're trying to cross over the river. The rivers are still flooding. That river is still flooding. People are still endangering their lives because it's not properly constructed. It's still a risky situation out there.
What else is making big news before I let you go?
There's also the news on the game in sports, the Liverpool and the AC Milan, where Liverpool won 2-1. There's also going to be the big game between Barcelona and Bayern Munich, and also my personal favorite, Manchester United, today at around 11.
All right, I'm already seeing Brian Jojo Tieno is smiling at the prospects of Manchester United. But Whitney, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us. With that, Whitney Speak is from our digital desk here.